then enter a guilty plea to count 1, aggravated possession of drugs, a felony of the 3rd degree, also with a forfeiture specification. The state would ask for a pre-sentence report and a drug and alcohol evaluation, and there is no agreement as to sentencing. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. I've discussed this matter with Mr. Spiesman. I believe guilty pleas will be forthcoming as to both cases and the terms outlined by Ms. Bell.
All right. Is that all correct, Mr. Spiesman?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, how old are you?
I'm 44, Your Honor.
How far did you go through school?
I have my GED in college.
Are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, Your
Are
Honor.
you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes, Your Honor.
Prior to coming to court, have you taken any drugs or alcohol or any prescription medication in the last 48 hours?
No, Your Honor.
Have you ever been diagnosed with or treated for any mental illness?
No, Your Honor.
In the 023 case, did you get a copy of that indictment?
Yes, Your Honor.
And you're going to plead guilty to possession of drugs of felony 5 as well as the forfeiture specification, is that correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And in 566, did you get a copy of the information?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you going to plead guilty to aggravated possession of drugs of felony 3 and the forfeiture specification?
Yes, Your Honor.
In that case, do you understand you have the right to have the case presented to the grand jury for them to decide whether or not to indict you?
Yes, I do.
Did you discuss that right with your attorney?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are you going to waive that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Sign here, please. All right, I'll accept the waiver of indictment. Now, before I accept your guilty plea, I need to determine that you know and understand the constitutional rights you'll be waiving, the consequences of your guilty plea, and the maximum penalty I can give you, and I need to be satisfied that your guilty plea is being made freely, knowingly, and voluntarily. So I'm going to ask you questions. If you don't understand a question or you want to talk to Mr. Fatika some more, let me know and I'll give you more time. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
So I'm going to go over your rights that apply to both of these cases. You understand that you have a constitutional right to have a trial, either to me or to a jury of 12 Lake County citizens. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your
Are
Honor.
you waiving that right?
Yes, I am.
If you go to a jury trial, all 12 members must agree to a guilty verdict before you can be found guilty. Do you understand that right?
Yes, Your
Are
Honor.
you waiving that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you go to a jury trial, or if you go to a trial, the prosecutor will call witnesses to testify against you. Do you understand the prosecutor must prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt at the trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
After the witnesses are done testifying for the prosecutor, you have the constitutional right to have your lawyer cross-examine the witnesses. Do you understand that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you go to trial, you have the right to have witnesses come here and testify for you. Do you understand that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
If those witnesses refuse to come to court, I'll issue an order called a subpoena to make them come and testify. Do you understand that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have the right to testify at trial if you want to. Do you understand that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
You have the constitutional right to not testify at trial if you do not want to. Do you understand that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you decide not to testify at trial, nobody is permitted to comment on that decision. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you go to trial and you're found guilty, you have the right to appeal the guilty finding. Do you understand that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you file an appeal, you have the constitutional right to have a lawyer represent you in the appeal. Do you understand that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you could not afford to hire a lawyer, one would be provided at no cost. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you file an appeal, you're entitled to have a transcript of all the hearings in this case. Do you understand that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you could not afford a copy of those transcripts, they'd be given to you at no cost. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you plead guilty here today, you will not have the right to appeal the guilty finding. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any question about any of these rights?
No, Your Honor.
You still want to plead guilty to these charges?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand by pleading guilty, you're fully admitting your guilt to the charges.
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand by pleading guilty to these felonies that you're voluntarily giving up your freedom for whatever period of time I could sentence you to prison, to jail, or to community control.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, in the 023 case, possession of drugs is a felony 5. There is a 12-month maximum prison sentence and a $2,500 maximum fine. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
If you plead guilty to the forfeiture specification, you're voluntarily giving up any right you would have to the items listed. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
In case 566, possession of drugs is a felony of the third degree. It carries with it a maximum prison sentence of 36 months and a maximum fine of $10,000. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
And if you plead guilty to that forfeiture specification, you're giving up any right you would have to the methamphetamine. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Now, I could give you a consecutive sentence in these cases, meaning one sentence after another for the separate cases. If I did that, you face a maximum prison term of 48 months and a maximum fine of $12,500. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you presently on post-release control to the parole authority?
You've never been to prison? Never? Yeah. Have you ever been to prison? Yes, I have. Yeah, you want post-release control or parole?
Yeah.
Right now?
No.
Then it's, you don't.
No, Your Honor.
One other thing about the 566 case, there is a presumption in favor of a prison sentence being imposed in that case. You would have to overcome that presumption at the time of sentencing for me not to impose a prison sentence. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand that your guilty plea may result in a driver's license suspension on each case of between 6 months and 5 years.
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand your felony conviction prevents you from owning or possessing a firearm.
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand if a prison term is imposed in this case, you might have to serve a period of post-release control as part of your sentence after your release for up to 2 years under the parole authority.
Yes, Your Honor.
If you are placed on post-release control and you violate any conditions, parole authority could return you to prison for up to 9 months for each violation, up to 1/2 of my sentence. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
If that violation is a new felony, then you could get an additional consecutive prison sentence for the violation. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
If that were to occur, the maximum prison sentence for that violation would be the greater of 12 months or the time left under post-release control. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
You understand if a prison term is imposed, you are eligible for judicial release.
Yes, Your Honor.
You could be placed on community control for up to 5 years, but if you violate any conditions, I could send you to prison for 48 months. Do you understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Anybody promised you I would be lenient on you just because you're pleading guilty today?
No, Your Honor.
Has anybody promised you what I will sentence you to in this case?
No, Your Honor.
You understand I don't have to follow the sentencing recommendation of either the prosecutor or your lawyer.
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you had enough time to talk to Mr. Fatika before pleading guilty today?
Yes, Your Honor.
Has he discussed everything about your case and answered all of your questions?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are you satisfied with the advice he's given you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Have you been threatened or coerced in any way to plead guilty today?
No, Your Honor.
Are you freely, knowingly, and voluntarily entering your guilty plea?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Ms. Bell, if 023 went to trial, what would the evidence show?
Thank you, Your Honor. Had this matter proceeded to trial, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt in case number 25 CR 23 that on December 29th, 2024, the defendant was pulled over for a traffic violation in Lake County, Ohio. As a result of that stop, his vehicle was searched and clonazepam, a Schedule IV drug controlled substance, was found. The defendant did not have a prescription for that drug and he was previously convicted of a drug abuse offense, cultivation of marijuana in violation of Rise Code Section 2924.04A in the Cuyahoga County Court of Common Pleas, case number CR 15597572A, dated January 11th, 2016.
Mr. Fatika, anything to add to those facts?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Spiesman, did you hear what Ms. Bell said the facts would show if the case went to trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are those facts true?
Yes, Your Honor.
What is your plea to possession of drugs, a felony 5?
Guilty, Your Honor.
And what is your plea to the forfeiture specification?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Ms. Bell, if 566 went to trial, what would that evidence show?
Had this matter proceeded to trial, the state would have proven beyond a reasonable doubt that on April 22nd, 2025, the defendant again was subject to a traffic stop, this time in Painesville, Lake County, Ohio. As a result of that stop, methamphetamine, a Schedule II drug, was found, and that methamphetamine exceeded the bulk amount but was less than 5 times the bulk amount. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Fatika, anything to add to those facts?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
Mr. Spiesman, did you hear what Ms. Bell said the facts would show if that case went to trial?
Yes, Your Honor.
And are those facts true?
Yes, Your Honor.
What is your plea to possession of drugs, a felony 3?
Guilty, Your Honor.
What is your plea to the forfeiture specification?
Guilty, Your Honor.
Mr. Fatika?
These are the originals, they're the same thing.
Are we okay to sign, Your Honor?
Yep.
Can you sign here, please? Okay, this is the same thing in the second case. Thank you. Thanks.
All right, Mr. Spiesman, on the 023 case, is that your signature on the written plea of guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you sign it voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want me to accept your written plea of guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Accept the written plea of guilty on the 566 case, is that your signature on this written plea of guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
And did you sign that one voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want me to accept that written plea of guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Accept the written plea of guilty. Defendant was present with Mr. Vatika. Advised of all of his rights, been a knowing, intelligent, voluntary waiver of those rights. He understands the nature of the charge, consequences of his guilty pleas, and the maximum penalty. Find it to be knowing, intelligent, voluntary, will accept his pleas of guilty and find him guilty on the 023 case of possession of drugs, a felony 5, and the specification. And in the 566 case, guilty of possession of drugs, a felony 3, and the specification. I'll refer both cases for a pre-sentence report and a drug and alcohol evaluation. Sentencing will be July 2 at 11 a.m. On the 23 case, that bond remains revoked. On the 566 case, I'm gonna revoke that bond. I'm going to sign an entry that allows you to be taken to your scheduled appointment on May 29th at noon. You'll be taken there by the sheriff's department. So you're not gonna miss that appointment, but the bonds are gonna stay revoked. Is there anything else, Ms. Bell?
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Fatika?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
All right, we're adjourned.
All rise.
in the case of State of Ohio versus Kevin Burgess, case number 25CR308. Defendant is present in the courtroom represented by defense counsel Jim Matthews. State's offer in this case, Your Honor, is a plea to an amended count 1, attempt to commit failure to comply with order or signal of police officer, felony of the 4th degree. It's my understanding that the defendant wishes to accept that offer today.
Mr. Matthews?
That is correct, Your Honor.
Mr. Burgess, how old are you?
19.
Speak up, please.
19.
How far did you go through school?
I'm in 12th grade.
Are you a U.S. citizen?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to read, write, and understand the English language?
Yes, sir.
Prior to coming to court, have you taken any drugs or alcohol or any prescription medication in the last 48 hours?
No.
Have you ever been diagnosed with or treated for any mental illness?
No.
Did you get a copy of this indictment?
Yes.
All right, it's been represented to me, you're gonna plead guilty to the amended count 1, failure to comply with the order or signal of a police officer, of felony 4, and the remaining charges will be dismissed at the time of sentencing. Is that your understanding?
Yes.
Before I accept your guilty plea, I need to determine that you know and understand the constitutional rights you'll be waiving, the consequences of your guilty plea, and the maximum penalty I could give you, and I need to be satisfied that your guilty plea is being made freely, knowingly, and voluntarily. I'm gonna ask you some questions. If you don't understand a question or you wanna talk to Mr. Matthews, let me know and I'll give you more time. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
You have a constitutional right to have a trial, either to me or to a jury of 12 Lake County citizens. You understand that right?
Yes.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes.
If you go to a jury trial, all 12 members must agree to a guilty verdict before you can be found guilty. Do you understand that right?
Yes.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes.
If you go to trial, the prosecutor will call witnesses to testify against you. Do you understand the prosecutor must prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt at a trial?
Yes.
After the witnesses are done testifying for the prosecutor, you have the constitutional right to have your lawyer cross-examine the witnesses. Do you understand that right?
Yes.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes.
If you go to trial, you have the right to have witnesses come here and testify for you. Do you understand that right?
Yes.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes.
If those witnesses refuse to come to court, I'll issue an order called a subpoena to make them come and testify. Do you understand that right?
Yes.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes.
You have the right to testify at trial if you want to. Do you understand that right?
Yes.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes.
You have the constitutional right to not testify at trial if you do not want to. Do you understand that right?
Yes.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes.
If you decide not to testify at trial, nobody is permitted to comment on that decision. Do you understand that?
Yes.
If you go to trial and you're found guilty, you have the right to appeal the guilty finding. Do you understand that right?
Yes.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes.
And if you file an appeal, you have a constitutional right to have a lawyer represent you in the appeal. Do you understand that right?
Yes.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes.
If you could not afford to hire a lawyer, one would be provided at no cost. Do you understand that?
Yes.
If you file an appeal, you're entitled to be given a transcript of all the hearings in this case. Do you understand that right?
Yes.
Are you waiving that right?
Yes.
If you could not afford a copy of those transcripts, they'd be given to you at no cost. Do you understand that?
Yes.
If you plead guilty today, you will not have the right to appeal the guilty finding. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you have any questions about any of your rights?
No, sir.
Do you still want to plead guilty to this charge?
Yes, sir.
You understand by pleading guilty, you're fully admitting your guilt to the charge.
Yes, sir.
You understand by pleading guilty to this felony, you're voluntarily giving up your freedom for whatever period of time I can sentence you to prison, to jail, or to community control.
Yes, sir.
Now, the amended count 1, failure to comply, is a felony of the 4th degree. It carries an 18-month maximum prison sentence and a $5,000 maximum fine. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand that if a prison term is imposed in this case, you might have to serve a period of post-release control as part of your sentence for up to 2 years under the parole authority?
Yes.
If you are placed on post-release control and violate any conditions, the parole authority could return you to prison for up to 9 months for each violation, up to 1/2 of my sentence. Do you understand that?
Yes.
If that violation is a new felony, and you could get an additional consecutive prison sentence for that violation, do you understand that?
Yes.
If that were to occur, the maximum prison sentence for the violation would be the greater of 12 months of the time left under post-release control. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Do you understand if a prison term is imposed, you are eligible for judicial release?
Yes.
I could place you on community control for up to 5 years, but if you violate any conditions, I could send you to prison for 18 months. Do you understand that?
Yes.
Has anybody promised you I would be lenient on you just because you're pleading guilty?
No.
He answered no.
Okay. Has anybody promised you what I will sentence you to in this case?
No.
Do you understand I don't have to follow the sentencing recommendation of either the prosecutor or your lawyer?
Yes.
Have you had enough time to talk to Mr. Matthews before pleading guilty today?
Yes.
Has he discussed everything about your case and answered all of your questions?
Yes.
And are you satisfied with the advice he has given you?
Yes.
Have you been threatened or coerced in any way to plead guilty today?
No, sir.
Are you freely, knowingly, and voluntarily entering your guilty plea?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions?
No, sir.
Ms. Zagretzky, if the case went to trial, what would the evidence show?
The evidence would show that on March 7th of 2025, in Lake County, Ohio, Willoughby Hills officer observed the defendant make multiple marked lanes violations and was monitoring the vehicle based on who the registered owner of the vehicle was. As he was following the defendant, they proceeded to drive into Cuyahoga County. More marked lanes violations occurred. Officer turned on his license sirens to initiate a traffic stop. The defendant was the driver. He did not stop his vehicle. He continued to drive. He took the Mayfield Road exit, ran a red light, turned into the Golden Gate Plaza, struck a curb, rendering his vehicle inoperable, and then ran from the vehicle.
All right, Mr. Matthews, anything to add to those facts?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Burgess, did you hear what Ms. Zagretzky said, that the facts would show if the case went to a trial?
Yes, sir.
Are those facts true?
Yes, sir.
What is your plea to the attempted failure to comply with the order or signal of a police officer, a felony 4?
Yes, sir.
What's your plea?
Attempted failure to comply.
Guilty or not?
Oh, guilty.
All right, Mr. Matthews?
Thank you, Your Honor. Prior to the hearing, I did review the written plea of guilty with Mr. Burgess. He indicated that he understood it and that he intended to sign it. Okay, if you put the date on that line, 5/21. And sign that.
Your Honor, I'm handing the court back the written plea of guilty. Witness the defendant and his attorney sign, and I've also signed it.
Mr. Burgess, is this your signature on the written plea of guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you sign it voluntarily?
Yes, Your Honor.
Do you want me to accept your written plea of guilty?
Yes, Your Honor.
Accept the written plea of guilty. Defendant was present. Mr. Matthews advised of all of his rights, made a knowing, intelligent, and voluntary waiver. He understands the nature of the charge, the consequence of his guilty plea, and the maximum penalty. Find it to be knowing, intelligent, and voluntary. Will accept his plea of guilty and find him guilty of the amended count 1 failure to comply, a felony 4. I refer this for a pre-sentence report. Sentencing will be June 27 at 8:30, and the bond is continued. Anything else, Ms. Zagretzky?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Mr. Matthews?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, we're adjourned.
as well.
All right.
I'm gonna hang one in my truck and one in my bedroom. One in my truck and one in my bedroom to remind me.
Okay. You can tell them that.
Yeah. Well, I pray I go home today.
All right.
Be seated. Mr.
Yes, Your Honor, we're here for sentencing in the matter of the State of Ohio versus Flora M. Moore, case number 24 CR 1095. Ms. Moore is present today in open court with her attorney, Mr. Jim Matthews. At the last proceeding, Your Honor, which was held on April 8th of this year, the defendant entered a plea of guilty to 2 counts, one being attempted tampering with evidence in F4 under 2921.12A1, and possession of cocaine on F5 under 2925.11A and carrying a forfeiture specification. Your Honor accepted the plea in order that the defendant undergo evaluations, a PSR, as well as a drug and alcohol evaluation. We have read the report. We are ready for sentencing. There's no prior agreement as to sentencing. We understand that the defendant has 57 days of time served, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Matthews.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Moore is requesting community control. She is hoping that the court will consider the 57 days that she has served to be sufficient. She has formulated a relapse prevention plan that includes going to an IOP, regaining contact with her sponsor and home group, taking all of her medications, following through with her mental health services which she receives, staying away from the wrong people, and generally just trying to love herself more, she indicates. Ms. Moore has been to a number of inpatient treatment facilities. I think that the lessons to be learned that she has learned, she just has to be motivated, which she is claiming that she is at this point, to remain sober. She does have 2 things she just presented me with from AA in the jail, or NA, and she completed a domestic violence education group while in the Lake County Jail. So she is asking that the court allow her to address her issues, but to address them on an outpatient basis, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Moore, what do you want to tell me?
I want to say that I apologize and I admit my wrongs. And I'm not perfect. I'm a good person. Like he said, I have a certificate for domestic violence. I was working and I was going to school as a peer supporter where I had started an online class. And I would just like to go home and return to a sober life.
How are you going to do that?
Go to IOP, go to meetings, be my sponsor, be my family, get a support group, a better support group. Well, I got a support group. I just need to honor my medicine, stay compliant.
Where do you get your medicine from?
Center for Families and Children.
What medicine you on?
Elazapine, hydrocortisone, hydrocortisone something. It's some more medicine. But I take heart medicine, cholesterol medicine, bipolar.
Okay. So you haven't had anything for 5 years, and you had a couple little things in the last, I don't know, 15 years. So when did you start with the crack again?
How many years ago, you mean?
No, I mean, you haven't been in trouble for a while, so how long have you been using it?
Well, when my sisters started dying, they was dying off. My brother died. 4 or 5 of my sisters died. This is my only sister I have left right there.
Well, I mean, what So as a result of that, you decided to use the drugs?
Yeah, 'cause I wasn't taking my medicine.
Why weren't you taking your meds?
Depression.
All right, well, that only makes it worse, right?
I know that now, Your Honor.
Okay, what do you do at the centers?
Well, I see my psych doctor. I was gonna get a psychiatrist to talk to more than once a week, but we were setting that up. We were starting to set that up. So I have not know who the psychiatrist is yet. But my doctor is Dr. James Ward that prescribed my medicine
Before you went off your meds, how long had you been taking them?
for years.
Years?
Yeah, years.
And during that time, you managed to function and not get in trouble, right?
Yes, sir.
So what does that tell you?
Keep taking my medicine, don't stop.
Because when you stop, then,
I use drugs, I go to jail.
right. So you've been in treatment a number of times, right?
Yes,
And you completed it, right?
yeah,
So you know what to do, right?
yes,
Who do you live with?
myself. I've been there for 10 years.
All right, Mr. Tavanche.
Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. It is apparent that the defendant does need treatment both with regard to apparent drug addiction and some mental health concerns over time. We are concerned or maybe even have doubts about her ability to comply with an IOP given her history. An IOP may be warranted, but we believe that given her history, a more structured treatment environment is needed before a bare IOP is given. For that reason, we would request JTP and any treatment thereafter where the defendant that Your Honor feels the defendant needs. Thank you.
How often do you see the psychiatrist at the centers?
Once a month.
And is that primarily for the medication?
Do what, sir?
Is the reason you go there once a month for the medication?
Yes.
Or do
We
you
have a
get-
bond too. I
What's-
talked to him
What?
we have a bond too. I talked to him about my issues.
Okay. Do you go to any other doctors?
No, not for my psych meds, I don't.
What about for other things?
No, I go to Circle Health, but they've affiliated with Center for Families and Children.
Where do you get the medication at? Do you go to one pharmacy for that?
Yes,
Where at?
Center for Families and Children.
All right, I've reviewed the pre-sentence report and the drug and alcohol evaluation. I've listened to what you've said, what counsel has said. And I've considered all the factors in 29, 29, 11, 12, and 13. I'll place you on community control for 2 years. You're gonna serve 57 days in jail with credit for the 57. No drugs or no, other than your prescription drugs, no drugs or alcohol, and you'll be screened.
Okay.
You're going to continue your mental health treatment at the centers and follow all the recommendations.
Okay.
I want you to complete an IOP and follow those recommendations.
Okay.
You see only the one doctor at the centers, one dentist, and one pharmacy for medication.
Okay.
Take your medication as is prescribed.
Okay.
Sign releases so probation can get your records. And pay the costs and supervision fees. Ms. Wehagan, any other terms?
No, Your Honor.
Do you understand all the terms?
Yes.
If you don't comply with the terms, then the state will file a motion to terminate your community control.
Okay.
And if I find you violated, then you face potentially 30 months in prison. You understand that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So you're in a situation where you've been through this enough times, you know what to do.
I do.
You know what happens if you do what you're supposed to do. And you know what happens now if you don't do what you're supposed to do.
I do.
So you gotta be determined to do it. Is there anything else? The remaining charges are dismissed. Anything else, Mr. Palache?
The forfeiture, Your Honor?
Forfeited, whatever is subject to forfeiture is forfeited.
Any thing in the JE with regard to PRC, Your Honor?
Well, since I'm not sending her, I don't need to tell her, so. Anything else, Mr. Matthews?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
All right, Ms. Moore, go do what you're supposed to do.
I will, thank you.
That has been completed and submitted for court review. The defendant is present today in court with counsel, Mr. Matthews. We are here for purposes of sentence. According to the Lake County Adult Probation Department, the defendant has 6 days jail time credit.
Mr. Matthews?
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Jackson is asking for community control. I did indicate to the court that he was working weekends. He did just inform me that he is in the process of getting a job more full-time with CMHA. He was supposed to start yesterday. But we do think that he's an appropriate candidate for community control. He does have a number of family obligations that he went into great detail regarding in his pre-sentence report. He does have a prior prison sentence, but since being released in 2020, he has no more convictions up until this point. We understand there is a pending case. But we do think that if the court does place him on community control, certainly he has been using marijuana rather heavily for a number of years, and he would ask to be able to address that issue on an outpatient basis so that he may continue to keep up with the obligations he has with his family, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, who do you have here for you?
Today, this is my fiance, and this is my youngest son.
Okay.
I
It-
could
it-
rearrange
It may not be a good idea to have your son in here for this, but that's up to you. That's up to you. You can either stay or go, it doesn't matter to me. I'm just telling you, it may not be a good idea. What do you have to say?
Just that I'm not a bad person. I mean,
Why are you selling drugs?
I accept full responsibility.
I know, I didn't ask you if you accept the responsibility. I asked why you were doing it.
I just had came upon some hard times. I had been out of work.
Why were you out of work?
Well, basically, the company that I had started, I was just running into a few minor problems, trying to get back into the loop of things since I had been home. I did like just a few events, but just trying to maintain everything as far as bills and things like that. I was working at a factory job for a while. They did some, you know, how factories are, they did company downsize or layoff or whatever you call it. I was working there for about...
Listen, all I kept reading in the past, when did this happen? Last year, a year ago, roughly?
Yes, June and July of 2024.
Okay, all I kept hearing from like 21 to 24 is how employers couldn't find employees. Nobody wanted to work because the federal government was handing out money like it was candy. So there were jobs out there. So if you didn't get a job, that was your fault.
No, I was working. I was working.
So why are you selling drugs then?
I got out in 2020 and I was working for about roughly almost about 2 years.
Okay,
And the job that I was working at laid me off.
all right. Then
I
there
had
was
3 jobs. I was working at a factory and 2 restaurants on the weekends.
Okay, so why were you selling drugs?
The factory job, which paid the bulk of the amount of money that I needed to sustain myself, laid me off.
Okay. Did you get another job?
I had been looking. I tried at Amazon. I tried basically everywhere that I knew. I actually just, like I told my lawyer, I just started a job yesterday working with CMHA as a general laborer doing cleanouts. The guy told me, he said, you know, you did good work. He actually, I told him I had a pending case, so I was supposed to get paid Friday. He actually paid me yesterday because I told him, you know, I got a pending case situation going on. He said, you know, if you want to work, you know, it's here, but you got to be here every day. He said you were on time, you know, you did good work. Everybody, you know, said you did good work, so, you know, the job is here if you want it.
What? Who did you sell drugs to?
It's a friend of mine.
Who?
I'm not gonna even lie to you. Like, I don't even remember the guy's name. I hadn't seen him in over a year. It was a guy I met through a mutual friend, and we both had like similar things in common. He
So
was
how did
hanging
you,
out in
how
the
did you
music
happen to
studio.
run into this guy?
I was in a music studio with my head DJ. He had a music studio located on East 66th, I believe, in St. Clair, depending on which way you're coming. It might be Addison if you're coming from St. Clair. I think it's 66 if you're coming from Superior. And he was just in the studio with us. We were talking about doing like some music stuff.
That's the first time you had seen him in a year?
You said, was that the first time I saw him in a year?
Yeah.
No, that was the first time I met him
When?
in 2022, I believe, because it was after I had been laid off from the factory. So I started back promoting and doing things with a couple of local DJs. I met him in a music studio. He lived maybe 2 houses over from the music studio. And we were talking, and while we were sitting in the car, I told my lawyer this, as we were sitting in the car, some guy walked up and went in the guy's house, and he found out that his girlfriend was cheating on him, and we started smoking, we had a drink, and I was, you know.
Okay, so last year, you sold to him.
Yes.
So how is it that you sold to him? What happened?
Basically, he had called me, he expressed some concerns that his kid, you know, his child's mom wouldn't let him see his kid, and he was just, I guess, you know, feeling down, and he asked me for numerous things, but I told him I you know, I don't.
What numerous things?
Man, he was asking me could I watch his girl for him? Could I drive by the house, see if I saw any cars outside?
When's the last time before that you saw him or talked to him?
Maybe 3 months.
Okay. So how is it that you sold something to him?
Basically, he called me out of the blue. He told me, you know, he's like, basically like I'm doing bad. You know, I was wondering if you could help me out. I want to get some bud, maybe some coke. You know, I guess he was having some sort of function at his house, a barbecue or something. And I had went out to his house. I met him one time at his house, or near his house. It's been a while ago. I was high at the time myself. But I know I met him somewhere in Menor.
In Menor?
Yes.
Where in Menor? Where the sale occurred?
Yes.
And why in Menor?
That's where he lived at the time. I believed anyways.
And then you did it about a month later?
I'm gonna be honest, Judge, I really don't know the exact time frame. So
Okay,
I don't
I do. About a month later, what happened there? He call you again?
Yeah, he basically called me again. This time I didn't meet him anywhere near his house. We met near a mall or a parking lot or something.
Okay.
And he asked me for like, basically the same thing, bud and some coke. And when I got there, you know, he told me that there was a problem. He didn't have all the money that he said, because I had bought it for him. You know what I'm saying? So he told me he didn't have all the money.
What do you
so
mean
I told him
what do you mean you bought it for him?
I went and purchased it.
Where'd you get it from?
The same place where I met him at the music studio on East 66 in St. Clair.
So somebody's selling out of the music studio?
I guess.
You guess. Well, you don't guess, you know.
I mean, yeah.
'Cause you got it, right?
Yes,
Okay. Now's not the time to bullshit me, right?
correct.
And so you got another charge in Cuyahoga that's pending, right?
Yes, when they put me
What
up.
happened at the pretrial last week?
Nothing, it was rescheduled,
Was rescheduled for when?
the 28th.
Who's your lawyer there?
A gentleman by well, he's not actually my actual lawyer, he's like the assistant for that lawyer. I could get his name, I can't think of it right off the top of my head, I'm sorry.
Did you hire that lawyer, or was he appointed?
He was appointed. Basically, what transpired is they just told me the charges and what I had going on and whatnot, and we were asking about getting my car back because I haven't had a vehicle in this entire process. So we were trying to,
Why not?
because they confiscated my car.
Back in February?
Yes.
What was the location of that arrest?
East 93rd and Harvard.
Now, you've been down this road before, right?
Yes.
So what happened in 18?
In 2018, I was living in a buddy of mine's house. Well, he wasn't a buddy of mine. It was just a friend of my fiance's family or whatever. We had lost our, the house that we were staying in was, the landlord hadn't paid the water and things like that, so things were getting pretty bad. So we moved in another house, and basically, kind of sort of a same sort of similar scenario. I got cool with the landlord, didn't know that he was a drug dealer, and basically they raided the house, and it was other people living in there, and they tried to charge me basically with everything that was in the house, and I ended up just copping out to the stuff that was in my actual apartment.
Okay, so you've also got a possession in 12, so you got this possession or trafficking in 16, then in 18, and then 24, then this pending charge in 25. Why do you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and keep getting caught? Why do you keep doing that?
Because I'm stupid.
Okay.
But
But
I have a drug
but you're
problem
aware
myself.
enough to know that you're stupid, so why do you keep doing stupid things? You're not stupid, but you keep doing stupid things. Why is that? And it doesn't work. You're not successful at it.
Correct.
So why do you keep doing it over and over again?
In the process of what I had going on, I also was struggling with different drug addictions myself at the time.
Okay.
So a lot of
What drug addictions?
coke and ecstasy, preferably.
Okay. So what have you done about, I mean, do you like doing that stuff? You must like doing that stuff, right?
Absolutely not.
Okay, then why do you keep doing it?
I don't know, man. I make bad decisions sometimes when I'm under pressure.
Well, how long have you been under pressure?
Pretty much my whole life.
Right. It's kind of like normal for people. So what have you done to try to deal with the pressure in a way that doesn't involve getting high all the time?
AA meetings, just staying away from, people, places, and things, surrounding myself with family, surrounding myself with people that want to better me. That's how I got the job offer. I've been clean, so by you, inquiring for me to stay clean, I was able to get the job for the CMHA position because I told them I was clean. I hadn't been smoking, I hadn't been drinking or doing anything.
Well, since when? When's the last time you smoked any pot?
As I told you when I came in, I believe it was my first time meeting with Mr. Matthews.
Okay. What treatment have you had before?
I don't know what it's called now, but it used to be called the Free Clinic in East Cleveland. They had a drug program there.
When was that?
That was in, I believe, 2015 or 16. And every time that I've been in the programs, I did complete them.
What am I missing here, Mr. Tompkins? I don't see any programs.
I can only go on what I've been told.
so that was the first time you got in trouble with the drugs, 13 years ago. Well, I don't know what you did with, see, you were ordered in this early intervention program, which sounds like if you complete, you're not gonna get convicted. Doesn't that sound like a version of treatment in lieu,
I'm sorry?
Dave?
It seems like a judge,
Cause you were,
because I mean, he was ordered to go through task.
right?
At some point he violated, was ordered to go to meetings. Another violation, another violation.
So you were sentenced, or you were placed in this program 12/5 of, I presume that's 12. Okay, then on April of 13, you have a violation. And he told you to go to 4 AA meetings a week and report until June of 13. And it was extended in November for another 6 months, the EIP, so you're still not convicted at that point. March of 14, you failed to appear for a violation hearing. Warrant was out. You get picked up in December, 8 months later. The EIP is extended until January 2nd of 15, so another year.
Can I, would you like me to explain why that?
No, not
Okay.
yet, not till I'm done.
Okay.
December 29th, you failed to report. Warrant was issued, picked up in April of 15. Finally terminated April 21st of 15. May, placed on probation for a year. Report weekly, drug test each report, and then you're terminated from probation after about 2.5 months. So what do you want to tell me about that whole shenanigan?
Well, basically what happened was, I didn't notice at the time, but some of the probation officers that they have there were people that graduated through the programs themselves. And my probation officer at the time was, I believe, pursuing I don't really know what was going on in her life, but I believe she relapsed. And she tried to violate me multiple times. If the probation officer doesn't show up to the violation hearing, then they basically sort of take it as she doesn't want to pursue. And eventually what happened was she gave me a task, which I was supposed to read a book. And I read the book, and this time I started making copies because I felt like, maybe she was doing things purposely to get me in trouble. So I did a book report, and I actually made a copy of the book report. And when she didn't show up to the violation hearing, I showed it to the judge to prove to the judge that I had read the book. And finally, the judge just gave me a new probation officer. And the new probation officer, he basically said, you're working, you got a good head on your shoulders, you got a safe home, you got a transportation, you're reporting, you're not dropping any dirties. He said, I believe everything that you were saying, and he let me off early.
Okay, so that's August 11th of 15.
Yes.
So 11 months later, you get a drug possession and a trafficking. Why?
Why
Why are you doing it again?
what year was this? I'm sorry.
July 7th of 2016. In Cleveland.
I believe I just was, once again, just due to my own addiction, I was riding.
So what'd you learn from going through the program at TASC?
Going through the program at TASC, I learned a lot about myself, preferably, and people, places, and things.
I hate that phrase.
I do too, because
Because
I
it
know
really
that-
doesn't mean anything, because if it meant anything, you wouldn't have picked this up in 16. If it meant anything, you wouldn't have gotten charged from last summer, okay? Because you're hanging around that guy who you hadn't seen for several months, okay? He's a bad, in the context of people, places, and things, he's a bad people. It's bad to be at the same place, and you're doing the wrong thing. So you're 0 for 3 on that.
Can I add something as well? Like I shared with this gentleman, at the time I had just started my own company. It was called Life Entertainment, and I was dealing with like a lot of, not like A-list celebrities, like no Jay-Z, no Beyonce's, but I was dealing with like just an upper class of people, and trying to impress people, trying to blend in, trying to hang around those particular types of people is what sort of sprung my addiction. And it went worse. Like I told him, at that time I was getting involved with Molly, lean, or
Okay.
promethazine,
So-
whatever they call it.
So maybe that's the wrong business to be in for you,
Correct.
because it seems to lend itself that people like to direct themselves toward those things.
Yes, and I agree 100%.
And it don't seem to work for you.
I agree, and I got away from that. I don't do the club scene anymore or the bar scene thing
Okay,
anymore.
but you gotta stop doing the drugs.
Correct, and I want to.
You may, I don't know. So you don't go to the clubs and the bars, but you're smoking pot every day.
Just as sort of like I explained to him during my PSI, like just due to like a lot of childhood trauma and the things that I've seen growing up, it's just I have a hard time sleeping and just calming my nerves, keeping myself in the home. Sometimes I just do it just to calm my nerves, and it helps me to just sit still for a minute.
It doesn't seem to work because you're here. The way you've been doing it for the last 15 years doesn't work, because you've now got 4 convictions, and you got a 5th one pending. It doesn't work. So the question is, why do you get up and beat your head against a wall when every time you do that it hurts?
I don't know. Like in this particular situation, I have been doing good, and then both my kids had like just medical
Okay?
complications.
How are you helping them by being involved in what you were involved in? How are you helping them by sitting here right now?
I'm not helping them at all by sitting here right now,
Then why are you doing it?
because I'm 80.
Okay, great. Now we figured out the answer to why. Now, what's the answer to what? What are you gonna do to stop doing it?
Like I said, I've been clean.
Don't tell me the people, places, and things that need.
No. I've just been, like I said, I've been clean. So, you know, one thing about living sort of a high lifestyle is it's kind of like a fog or like a cloud over you. Every day you wake up, and it's just like you just trying to make it to the next day. And
How many kids you got?
I have 2.
How old are they?
One is 14, and this one here is 10. And I just want to continue just working and remaining clean and just spending as much time with my family, just staying around the
You don't let them smoke pot, do you?
No.
Why not?
I don't drink or smoke in front of my children
Why not?
because I know that it's bad. And
Why
I
do
try
you-
to get them.
So you're telling them, don't do this, don't do what I do, but then you continue to do it. What are they supposed to take from that? Do what I say, don't do what I do. What good is that?
It's not, man. I like I said, I had a rough childhood, so
All right,
I
so
spent
what,
my
so
life
what?
trying to get them as
I
normal of a
read
childhood as
your, I
possible.
read your pre-sentence report, okay? So I know all about that. All right? So your method of dealing with it is to smoke pot every day, to try to forget about it. The only problem is, once you come out of your fog, you still remember it. So then what do? You smoke pot to forget about it. And then when you come out of your fog, you remember it, okay? And so 15 years later, you're coming out of the fog and you still remember it. So that doesn't work. Is there something else that might work?
Yes, I believe so. I believe.
What?
Like I said lately, I've just been applying myself more into their lives, into their education, into doing things that basically just keeps me focused on the things that are important in my life, which is my children and my family. You know, trying to just keep myself motivated and reminded that I have something to live for.
Why didn't that dawn on you like 10 years ago? When this one was a newborn and the other one was 4? Why didn't it dawn on you then?
One of the things that I learned in 2000 and I think you said it was 16 is, and the guy that ran the class, you know, he was like an ex-addict, so out of all the people in there, he used to talk to me. He was from the same neighborhood as me. And he remembered when I played basketball and I was a good kid, and he said, coming from where we come from, a lot of times people don't understand they're living in the cave until they get outside of the cave. And he told me, he said, just because you're grown doesn't make you a man. He said, you have to get out of that cave. And once you get out of that cave, then you'll know that you were in the cave.
Well, when are you gonna get out of the cave?
I believe I'm out of the cave, and I believe I can remain out of the cave for the rest of my life.
Okay. And so what have you done since beating your head against the wall hasn't worked? What have you done to deal with the circumstances of when you were young?
One of the biggest things that I've done, and I don't know, you know, this makes any sense to a lot of people, but one of the main things that I've recently done was forgave myself. Because a lot of times, growing up in certain circumstances, you see things, you hear things, and you take blame in it, and you say, well, you know, maybe it's my fault, or, you know, that this happened, or maybe if I would have did this, then that wouldn't have happened. And, you know, some of those things I just had to forgive myself for. I've been recently, like I said, spending more time with my family, trying to get a better understanding on who I am and, you know, where I come from and where we come from, and just putting a lot of puzzle pieces together about myself, and, you know, just understanding other relatives reached out. I mean, people that I never, some of them I never even met. Some of them I just haven't seen since, you know, I was younger. And, you know, they heard what I was going through and they said, let's, you know.
What do you mean they heard what you were going through?
People that I hadn't, some of them I hadn't met before. Like, you know how you have relatives that maybe live in other states and cities and you haven't met them. And some of them I had, but, you know, they remember me, you know, they had met me before, but I was just too young to remember them. Let me say that. When they moved out of state or out of city, you know, and they told me, you know, that's why I left, you know, because that situation was bad and that place was bad. And, you know, I needed a new beginning. I needed to do something different. And, you know, they told me that, you know, that might be something that you want to consider when you get through with your situation, is you might want to think about just relocating and starting over.
All right, well, that isn't necessarily the answer, is it? What do you get, what, if you move, relocate, what are you getting away from?
I just took it as when an NFL player or basketball player gets traded to a new team, you know, sometimes you get stuck and you just get sort of, I'm not gonna say comfortable, because I don't feel like I've ever been in a situation where I could be comfortable, but you just get sort of into a routine, shall we say. And sometimes to break the routine, you have to be uncomfortable.
All right, your routine is, you dwell on the past, right? On your childhood, you dwell on that, and then you turn to getting high, and you end up in the jackpot. That's your routine. You work, okay? Your mind wanders, you dwell on your past, you haven't dealt with that, so your method to deal with it is to get high, okay? So if you move to Butte, Montana, okay, you'll work, your mind will drift, you'll think about your past, and you'll get high, because there's drugs in Butte. So that, the answer is not running somewhere else.
Well, I'm not saying that was, you know, I just was giving you some sort of example of, like, you know, just people that I've been in touch with, and, you know, just knowing that somebody cares about you other than yourself, you know. Like, I don't have like a.
Well, they probably do.
Yeah. Yes. But like, just, and me and
Why
her, we
don't you-
talk
why don't
about
you-
that.
Why don't you focus and concentrate on what you have rather than what you don't have?
And that's basically what I've been working on myself. I've just been trying to focus on
You
what I
gotta
do
work-
have
you-
and
you
what I
gotta-
am good at.
You gotta work harder, because you're 40 years old.
And I want to.
Then do it.
I'm ready to do it.
I don't know if you're ready or not ready.
I guarantee you I'm ready.
I don't like when people make me guarantees.
I'm in my line of just dealing with people. That's why people trust me the way that they do, is because they know once I give you my word, I'm gonna do something, I do it.
Ms. Naroda?
Judge, as the state discussed in chambers with the court and defense counsel, the state feels this time the defendant is not amenable to a community control sanction and would ask the court to impose a prison sentence.
Is that an unfair recommendation?
To be completely honest, I do feel so.
Okay,
Can I elaborate?
go ahead.
Only because, just due to the fact that I'm not a violent person and I don't have like a, demeanor of, just being disrespectful towards people or, I don't carry any, like stigma over myself that I'm tough or anything like that. I believe those places bring the worst out of people.
Well, no question they do. No question that they do. And you know that firsthand, because you were there.
Absolutely.
Okay? But we can't have people running around selling drugs, right?
Correct. And I give you my word that I'm done with that.
Okay? Well, in some contexts, words don't really mean anything. Actions mean everything.
If given the opportunity, I believe my actions can prove that.
So you're right about one thing, you're not violent because your record doesn't indicate that. Okay? What you did was you sold drugs to a drug addict, a person who was trying to get his own ass out of a jackpot, and managed to do it quite well. So he used you to get what he wanted. Now, the irony is you were using him to get what you wanted. You wanted money, so you were using him. But the entire time the joke was on you because he used you to turn a felony into a misdemeanor and get paid at the same time.
I was unaware of that.
Well, it doesn't really matter whether you're aware of it because the reality is the drug dealers and the drug users are using each other to get what they want. At least that's what everybody thinks, okay? Now, if you were in the business of selling cars and you sold a Lexus to Jim, Jim wanted the Lexus, you wanted to sell it to him, you made money and he got what he wanted and everybody benefited, okay? Drug dealers and the drug buyers, they're presumably doing the same thing. The user wants to get high, so he finds a dealer to give it to him, the dealer gets money, so everybody's happy. Okay? Only you got used big time here. Okay? But so what? What does it matter?
It matters to me.
That's your fault. That's not his fault.
Right.
He's just a strung out drug addict trying to get what he can, and he got it. Okay, and that's your fault because you played the game. And like I said a long time ago, like 15 or 25 minutes ago, you don't play this game very well. You're a bad player at this game. Your head's got to hurt from all the time you've spent beating it against the brick wall.
With all due respect, Your Honor, my entire life I just always just felt like I was alone. So I just
Then
always
what are
felt,
these two people doing here if you've always been alone?
they're here because they love me and I love them. And I'm trying to show them
Okay.
by proving to
So-
you
so-
with my actions that
So
I
what
can.
you have to do is you gotta figure out how you deal with your past that doesn't involve getting high all the time. Okay, because that gets in the way of everything you do,
Correct.
and it always has. And I'm not a junior psychologist, okay, but, Stevie Wonder could see that, all right?
Yes.
Okay. So when are you gonna quit beating your head against the wall and deal with your past? So you don't have to be looking over your shoulder to figure out which cop is gonna get you next for selling drugs.
I believe in my in my mind, I believe I started down that path day I met this gentleman right here, and he gave me some words of advice.
Advice don't mean shit unless you follow it, right?
I've been sticking to it so far.
All right, I reviewed the pre-sentence report and the drug and alcohol evaluation. And I have considered all the provisions in 29, 29, 11, 12, and 13. We'll place you on probation for 4 years. You're gonna serve 6 days with credit for 6, no drugs or alcohol with screens. You're gonna complete an intensive outpatient program, drug program, follow all recommendations. You're gonna get a mental health evaluation and follow the recommendations. That's probably the most important part of this whole thing. You're gonna complete the decision points program. Is there a decision points program for males, Dave?
I believe so, Your
All right, and follow those recommendations, that's through probation. You're gonna maintain full employment, and you're gonna go to at least three AA meetings a week and get a sponsor and pay the costs and supervision fees. Any other terms, Mr. Tompkins?
I don't believe so, Your Honor.
You understand the terms, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you don't follow the do you have any questions?
Just did I get his information before we leave?
Well, you're gonna meet with, who's his PO gonna be?
Jamie.
Okay. You're gonna probably have to set up an appointment. Is he gonna go over now or set up an appointment?
I'll talk to him after.
All right, so if you don't follow these terms, guess what? Then the state files a motion to terminate, and if I find you violated, then I'll terminate you, and you've got 60 months in prison looking. That's what you're looking at, you understand that?
Yes, sir.
And then if that happens, when you get out, then you'll maybe on post-release control, and they'll be looking over your shoulder. And if you don't do what you're supposed to do with them, then you go back to prison. So if all this goes south, then you'll be like 45 or 46 when you get out. Okay? And your kids will be 20 and 16 when you get out. The most important part of this whole thing is the mental health evaluation. Okay, so this is your responsibility. It's not your kids, it's not your fiance, it's not Mr. Matthews, it's not mine, it's not your probation officer, it's your responsibility. Anything else, Mr. Naroda?
I think, Judge, shall I include in the entry also that no use in screens?
I think I said that.
If, I'm sorry if you did.
Yeah, I did.